Welcome back to the Emily Show, Monday edition that's meant to be quicker bits of the legal stories you want to know, but I cannot say entirely in itself is all that quick. And it's definitely not going to be today because so much popped off last week that I feel like this episode should be just titled What the Fuck Happened on Friday? But we have so much to talk about. From the Wicked lawsuit to whether or not Spotify Wrapped is actually trying to get on Drake's good side because he's thinking about suing them? Question mark. It looks like TikTok might actually get banned in the United States next month. Then there's the Tuah girl crypto scam and the internet telling her she needs to talk to a lawyer. And then Diddy's lawyers just aren't done yet. Let's get into it. I'm legal analyst Emily D. Baker. This is the Quick Bits, where I break down just the main points of the pop culture and entertainment cases I'm currently covering on YouTube and the Emily Show podcast. Let's get into it. If you have been around the Emily Show and the live streams for a minute now, you know that I enjoy a segment or episode called Food Court. And in Food Court, we go over all the food lawsuits, whether somebody is suing over the shape of a Reese's or whether somebody's mad that hot sauce isn't actually made in Texas. But I'm feeling Food Court vibes from the Wicked lawsuit because this federal lawsuit was filed on Tuesday, December 3rd over the Wicked Mattel Glinda doll. Galinda. I'll let you determine. Emily, is the movie Wicked still on your mind? Yes. Have you seen it? It's probably still on your mind too. So we're going to talk a little bit about this lawsuit. And if we need a deeper dive, you're going to need to let me know in the comments. The heart of this lawsuit is that someone who purchased the Ariana Grande Mattel doll went to the website linked on the back of the Mattel packaging that goes to www.wicked.com. Well, wicked.com is not a movie website. Oh, Emily, you are so wrong. It's an adult movie website. It is not Wicked, the musical, the movies website. And somebody's marketing team just did not communicate well with whoever did the copy for this box. Also, if you're going to make your website wickedmovie.com and you don't know where wicked.com goes, that's also probably a fail. Maybe you check and see because someone's just going to type in wicked.com unexpectedly. So wicked.com, I'm sure, has gotten some traffic, maybe more from this lawsuit than from the actual back of the packaging on the doll. But the lawsuit alleges that the doll never would have been purchased if they had known that the link on the back of the box didn't actually go to a website promoting the movie. And I have so many questions about that because I've bought a lot of toys for kids and friends of kids. And never, ever once has that ever come into my thought process unless it was an actual functional part of the thing I was buying, whether the thing had a virtual reality component or you could collect things that you bought physically, but also could collect them online. But if the website is a link backed by the UPC code, it's not an integral part of the toy, but I want you to let me know. Let's take a look at the pictures in the lawsuit, shall we? So the actual causes of action here from Holly Ricketson versus Mattel Inc., the manufacturer of the toy, are unjust enrichment, negligence, breach of express warranty, breach of implied warranty of merchantability, violation of California's Consumer Legal Remedies Act, violation of California's false advertising law, and violation of California's unfair competition law. So it is the kitchen sink. This is the doll they are suing over. It is a doll in a pink dress that I don't think looks very much like Ariana Grande, but that's just me, that sings popular. You're gonna be pop. Emily, stop. I know, I can't. It's always been so catchy. And then there is a picture of the back of the box, and the lawsuit says specifically defendant's packaging contains a website link, wicked.com, which directs visitors to a pornography site rather than a site about the movie or the doll itself. And it is above the UPC code in the the smallest, narrowest font, that this has been very much zoomed into the back of the box to show it here in the lawsuit. And the lawsuit goes on to say that on or about November 11th, the plaintiff purchased the Wicked doll for her daughter, who is a minor. After opening the box that contained the Wicked doll, plaintiff says that her daughter used an iPhone to visit the website shown on the packaging. I need to know how old the child is that is going to the very back of the box after the box has been opened and typing in www.wicked.com into a browser and not into a Google search. I have a lot of questions. It goes on to say, to her absolute shock, the website wicked.com had nothing to do with the Wicked doll. Rather, wicked.com pasted scenes of pornographic advertisements across the phone screen. These scenes, they say, were hardcore, full-on nude pornographic images depicting actual intercourse and is available for in-camera review by the court if necessary. Was it then screenshotted? Or are they just going to send the court to the link as it exists today? I have questions. It goes on to say plaintiff's minor daughter immediately showed her mother the photographs and both were horrified by what they saw. Well, I'm glad that the child was like, yo, that's weird. It goes on to say that if plaintiff had been aware of such an inappropriate defect in the product, she would not have purchased it. And at that point, I call BS. I don't think that is a product defect. I don't think a mistype on the back of the box is a product defect. I think it is unfortunate that it happened. I would be surprised if that website didn't immediately hit an 18+ age gate that had to be clicked past. I would be surprised if that didn't exist in November of 2024. I would be surprised if the website immediately plastered things onto an iPhone, unless perhaps it had been visited before. But even then, I would assume that there would be an age gate, as most sites are now age gated in at least a click through based on changes of laws across the United States this year and last year. I also find it hard to believe that they are referring to the error on the box as a product defect. Where are the boundaries of product defect? And is this a plaintiff that has actually been harmed? They are saying that they have been distressed, but the doll is not defective. The doll does not have parts that are going to cause harm or injury. Those lawsuits have happened decades ago. So is this really a product defect? Or is this lawsuit going to just make lawyers some money to make Mattel's lawyers do some things? But with the, we never would have bought this doll if we had known that there was a typo on the back of the box. That's a difficult one for me. Let me know what you think. But you know what's a little bit less popular than this doll? Spotify Wrapped. Let's talk about it. If you are someone who enjoys Spotify Wrapped and are not one of the folks like me who is like, you know, I don't really use Spotify to listen to music. I've had Apple Music or iTunes in some version since like 2002, if not just a little bit earlier. I carried a laptop that weighed probably 12 pounds, if not more, around with me like it was an iPod, because that's where my Apple Music was when I was in law school. I have been a long time Apple Music girl, but now I listen to Apple Music across multiple different accounts. My kid listens on my account. So for all the parents out there whose Wrapped reflects that everyone in a household uses your account, I feel you, I see you, and it is what it is. Now, if somebody tried to do a Wrapped of my Audible account or my Kindle account, then maybe I would fight. That's not getting shared online. But fans were very disappointed with what seems to be the generative AI heavy Spotify Wrapped. What I was curious about in Spotify Wrapped are who are the top artists. And after we've heard so much, and I talked about it last week on the Emily Show about Drake suing Kendrick Lamar, accusing Spotify of payola, accusing Spotify of promoting Not Like Us, I was interested to see where Drake fell vis-a-vis Kendrick Lamar in the Spotify Wrapped, because Spotify is one of the named platforms in the quest for documents, discovery, and depositions. What I wasn't prepared for were the amount of memes talking about Spotify Wrapped. And I sometimes can't tell if they are real or not real, because some people are being told that their genres of music are very Pink Pilates princess roller skating pop or bougie football rap or coastal grandmother freestyle yacht rock. I have seen so many talk about the Pink Pilates Princess that I think that one is at least fairly accurate. And the memes about that have been hilarious. So for the memes, I have been 10 out of 10 on the AI-powered Spotify Wrapped. For all of you that have tagged the Emily Show podcast in your Spotify Wrapped, I try to share them all on social. If I don't get to them before they expire, know that I see that you've tagged me and I appreciate it. But I had to pull some of these up because I have thoughts. And if you're sitting there going, Emily, it feels like you are tying this into an ongoing potential lawsuit so you can talk a little bit about pop culture. Yes, that's exactly what's happening. Top 10 most viral songs globally. Number 1, Die With a Smile from Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars. And then we've got number 10, Not Like Us from Kendrick Lamar. Of course, Hosier's Too Sweet is on there. We Can't Be Friends, Ariana Grande's on there. Birds of a Feather from Billie Eilish, who I know a lot of people had on there. Spotify Wrapped is there. And of course, Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter. But those are top 10 most viral songs. What about top artists of the year? Well, the top 10 artists in the US are number 1, Taylor Swift. Number 2, Drake. Number 3, Zach Bryan. Number 4, Morgan Wallen. Number 5, Kanye West. Number 6, Future. Number 7, Kendrick Lamar. Number 8, Travis Scott. Number 9, The Weeknd. And number 10, Metro Boomin. So I know that Drake is telling everyone that Spotify has been, illegally promoting Kendrick Lamar's music. But how did Spotify decide to do its top 10 artist? Was it generated by plays? Was it handpicked? Was it vibes? I have a lot of questions how these were determined. Was it overall downloads? Because Drake was bitching a whole lot about how many downloads Not Like Us has. And yes, I use downloads and streams interchangeably, but I know that Not Like Us was nearing in on 1 billion streams. So for Drake to be number 2 and Kendrick Lamar to be number 7, it seems that Drake must have done more streams than that over the last year with Spotify. And then when we look at top 10 songs in the US for the year, not most viral songs, top 10 songs in the US is number 1, Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter. Number 2, Not Like Us by Kendrick Lamar. Number 3, Tipsy, a bar song by Shabuzi, which is also just a great song. Does Spotify choose where people fall on their Spotify Wrapped, or is that just solely based on download numbers? And also, can somebody tell me what music is Pink Pilates Princess? Because I need to know. Well, Emily, now we need to know who your number 1 artist was on Spotify Wrapped. None, because I don't listen to music on Spotify. But my number 1 artist on Apple Music Replay is Sum 41. So, you know what I want to see? What Marquez Brownlee suggested. MKBHD says this every year. Look, YouTube, call it YouTube Rewind and just let us know who we watch the most, how much time. I want a YouTube Rewind. That's what I want to see. I know that's what you want to see. That's what we want to see. I want to see a YouTube Rewind too. I think it's a great idea, but they can't unwrap it the way Spotify did this year, because what a mess. And speaking of what a mess, the music industry is definitely want to get those sweet, sweet TikTok numbers before TikTok is banned in the US next month. But before we get there, this is the perfect time for me to remind you that if you want to stay connected with all the content I am putting out, thelawnardapp.com is where you need to be. Every episode that comes out, programming changes day to day when we're in trial, because you never know what platforms are going to do. You never know when the landscape is going to change. And I bet that as I record this on Friday, December 6th, there are a lot of people that have built everything on TikTok that are absolutely panicked. And I wish I could say don't panic, but I don't think we're going to get through any of this without there at least being some time that TikTok is unavailable in the United States. So you may remember that the United States passed a law that TikTok had to divest or remove itself from its Chinese parent-based company, ByteDance. And that ban was set to go into action mid-January 2025. Well, ByteDance and TikTok took this to the Court of Appeals and said that this law was unconstitutional on a number of grounds, including the First Amendment, saying that the government cannot ban speech, that this is a speech platform. And a similar argument had gone up to the Ninth Circuit a number of years ago, pre-COVID, on similar grounds. But this went up to the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia. And the court's opinion said the First Amendment exists to protect free speech in the United States, yet went on to say, quote, here, the government acted solely to protect that freedom from a foreign adversary nation and to limit that adversary's ability to gather data on people in the United States. So they're saying this isn't a rule limiting free speech because of the way this law was written, which said you have to not be owned by a Chinese company. And TikTok and ByteDance have said in the past that that January deadline was not enough time for them to divest their companies from each other and to have TikTok placed with another company. And if that's not done, this goes into effect on January 19th, 2025. So what is the remedy here? Well, TikTok will probably appeal to the Supreme Court to take this up, but whether the Supreme Court will take this up on an emergency basis or whether they will wait until October to take this up, if even then, we will see. And while the Supreme Court does often take a look at First Amendment cases, will they see this as a First Amendment speech case, or will they see this as a foreign corporate ownership issue where speech is not really the thing targeted, it's who owns the platform that is the issue? And if there was a different owner of the platform, then the platform would be fine. And with that, this is the order from the United States Court of Appeal for their September term filed on December 6, 2024, saying, these causes came to be heard on the petitions for review of constitutionality by the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act and were argued by counsel. On consideration thereof, it is ordered and adjudged that the petitions for review be denied in accordance with the opinion the court filed herein. If you want to dive into all of that opinion, you're going to have to let me know so we can deep dive it. So the question remains, on January 19th, is TikTok in the United States done? Or at least done until it's sold? I guess we will see. And I have to wonder if the Tuah girl is now done after this crypto scam. We've got to do an overview on this. And if you're sitting there going, Emily, what is the Tuah? Isn't that from a Missy Elliott song? Who is the Tuah girl? And what are we even talking about? So let me give you a brief overview of this story. The Tuah girl became known on the internet for a man on the street interview when she was out seemingly drinking on Broadway in Nashville. After that clip went incredibly viral, you saw her everywhere on the internet, hosting parties and going on people's podcasts and at football games and all over the place. It was all of the sudden everywhere all at once. And then she started a podcast, which actually was mentioned in Spotify Wrapped. We're going to talk about that too. Started a podcast called Tuah, has sold merch and hats, and then decided to sell what seems to be a crypto scam to her audience. Most of these meme tokens do not go well for the investors. This one seems a bit more nefarious than that. Not that it just buckled, but that actually this seemed to be a planned rug pull, which is just those who are in early grab the money from those that are coming in after and pull the rug out from under the value of the coin. And that formula or that behavior that looks a lot like stock insider trading has happened in this meme coin space again and again and again. But it is turned around squarely to bite Tuah in the Tuah. So if you've never seen the viral clip, this is the viral clip from Broadway in Nashville.
What's one move in bed that makes a man go crazy every time?
Oh, you gotta give him that hawk to and spit on that thing. You get me?
Emily, did someone build an entire internet career off of that moment? Yes, that's exactly what's happening now. Are they now being accused of pulling almost $50 million out of their audience? Yeah, that's the accusation, though I think those numbers are high at this point, but we will continue to see. Is there also a Tuah podcast? Why, yes, there is. And when I was doing my research on Spotify Wrapped, did I see it? Yes, I sure did. Because when you're looking at Spotify Wrapped's official breakout creators of 2024, well, the Haley Welch Talk to a Podcast is right there with a group of breakout podcasts. I will say what you will notice is the first podcast listed, The Joy of Missing Out, is with Chloe Shih and Eric Way. I think Eric is great. He and I have met at a bunch of different YouTube events. But what I would love you to notice about the title listing of their podcast, Joy of Missing Out, is that when it lists the podcast, it says that Chloe and Eric have the podcast. It does not talk about studios. It's not like the Plan Brie Uncut, which is a Barstool Sports podcast. And there is no shade to any of that. But they are the only non-networked podcast, much like The Emily Show is a non-networked podcast. When you see it, it just says Emily D. Baker on it, because this podcast has been since the beginning independent. And for independent podcasts to break through on lists like these is incredibly difficult and noteworthy. But that made me wonder, because as I saw this entire crypto scam situation unfold, my question was, who are the people around Haley Welch, the Talk to a girl, that are able to make sure that this podcast is hitting and trending, that this podcast, when it was launched, was number 2 in the world behind Joe Rogan? This podcast, I just went and looked, has like 13 episodes. Podcasts often take time to grow and don't have immediate viral success like that. So I had questions about who is behind the Talk to a Podcast. And I had never heard of Better, which is listed underneath the Talk to a Podcast. So, you know, I did what I do. And I went, oh, I have questions. Well, law nerds, don't worry. I've got you. According to their official Presswire news release, viral sensation Haley Welch launches Talk to a Podcast with Better. Today, Better, a leading sports gaming and media company, announced the addition of viral internet sensation and social media superstar Haley Welch, known as the face of the biggest meme in the history of the internet. I challenge that. Huck Tuah, to its expanding roster of top-tier creators in the Better Media family. Welch will debut her new weekly podcast, Talk Tuah, under the Better Media banner, with the first episode to premiere on Tuesday, September 10th across social media and audio platforms. Talk Tuah marks the latest expansion of the company's roster of premium original IP, joining viral shows BS with Jake Paul, Twin Talk with Hannah and Haley. But you know what it left out at the beginning of that? The About Better section. Don't worry, we'll get to it. About Better. Founded in 2022 by Joe Levy and Jake Paul, Better is a leading sports games and sports media company focused on enhancing consumption of sports through entertainment. It's a betting app founded by Jake Paul. So when I ask myself, who are the people around Haley Welch thinking that this kind of meme coin rug pull bullshit is going to somehow be survivable to her notoriety, I look no further than Jake Paul, who has made an entire career out of being the problem child. So it doesn't surprise me that on the marketing rodeo for the Hawk coin, that the podcast episode of Talk Tuah, their 13th, by the way, was released right before this coin went live. And the episode they released was, drumroll please, thank you, law nerds, How to Avoid Getting Canceled with Brooke Schofield. How to Avoid Getting Canceled was the last podcast she put out before this meme coin went live and the internet lost its mind. I want to talk just a little bit more about the deep dive into this coin because CoffeeZilla, who does a ton of investigative work into crypto, understands the blockchain, explains it so you can understand. And I'll link his video below if you want the deep dive on really the nitty gritty about what's going on here. But of interest to me is, one, he ended up in a Twitter Spaces with Haley, who responded to him when he was asking questions. Two, the way those questions were being answered, I was sitting here going, wait, I have an answer to that. And three, her lawyer reached out to CoffeeZilla, and I really want to talk about what her lawyer had to say. So CoffeeZilla gets into a Twitter Spaces with Haley Welch, somebody from the company over here, which seemed to be launching this coin with her, and asked a few pointed questions.
I have questions. I have questions.
Do we need to send Coffee and I Have Questions hoodie. I mean, this round of I Have Questions hoodies are sold out, but do we need to send Coffee some Lawnerd merch? Because he's in there like a Lawnerd. I have questions. Yep. We 100% have questions.
I'm raising my hand. Hey guys.
What Coffeezilla?
Hey, this is one of the most miserable, horrible launches I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, then why the fuck are you on?
The person responding to Coffeezilla is in fact Haley Welch. When he's like, this is the most miserable thing I've seen. And she's like, well, why the fuck are you here then?
From the rug pull, I think it's relevant.
We didn't pull a rug. I don't know what you're trying to say. It's not true. That's defamation.
Doc, do the math. Do the math.
So then he goes on to explain that not only did people who have the coin before it went live for people to buy have that coin without buying it or putting any money in for it, and then were able to sell it, but he talks about the fact that there was a 15% fee on it, and he's trying to get to the bottom of who benefits from the fee. And that is what we are going to talk about real quick. Who got paid on this?
Team now blames snipers for a lot of this rug pull. But what it means is they benefited the entire way. You can see in 24 hours, they made almost $2 million from this fee. Meanwhile,
in true Lawnerd fashion, Coffeezilla is asking, who benefited? You know, follow the money.
I, of course, asked who benefited.
Right.
Did Hawk to a Girl make the money? Who made the money in this whole thing? And they essentially dodged the question. Who's making millions of dollars on fees from this rug pull?
That's not a scheme. That's the
Who's making fees?
So we can keep this thing
Where's
going
the money?
for years. Okay, that's how do you think? There's so many expenses.
Who makes the money on the fees? Someone just made over $1 million on fees. Who made it?
First of all, the fees were there with Meteora Pools, and that goes to the creator.
The
right?
creator.
Which is who? Who does that own? Who does that belong to?
That belongs to the project.
Who's the project?
Who is the project?
Well, the project is over here, Haley Welch, right? And
How much does Haley Welch own?
this is Haley Welch's project.
So she owns all of it.
Coffeezilla.
I'm just trying to figure out who owns it.
Do you know how much it costs for lawyer fees to create a foundation in the Cayman Islands?
Bing, bing, bing. To create a foundation in the Cayman Islands. We're going to come back to that because that's how they were answering his question.
To hire directors, you think this stuff pays for itself? You know, this is how you run a project forever. Is you have to fund that. And first of all, over here can speak to the extensive
Word salad. So they continue on with the word salad, but the heart of this question is, okay, it went to a foundation. Who owns the foundation? And that's what he tries to ask.
So who made the money? You haven't answered the question. Who made the money? How much did Haley Welch make of that million, 1.8 million?
It's a foundation
It's a
that
foundation.
is running this project.
How much does she own of it?
It's a foundation. She owns zero of the foundation.
The foundation. The foundation. Let's keep going.
So y'all made the money?
No, I don't own the foundation either. A foundation.
Brother, who profited? Over $1 million was just made.
A foundation that pays people out. And by the way, coffee.
A foundation that pays people out. So they refuse to answer the question on who, quote unquote, owns the foundation and whether that is due to talking points, ignorance, or savviness. What we need to talk about is the foundation. What Coffeezilla keeps asking is who owns the foundation. And they keep saying, Haley doesn't own the foundation. We don't own the foundation. And that's because a foundation is essentially a business structure tax shelter in the Cayman Islands. Foundations in the Cayman Islands are incorporated under their laws, but they are not subject to taxes in the Cayman Islands. And by not being subject to taxes, I mean, quote, a foundation company is not subject to any corporation, income withholding, or capital gain taxes in the Cayman Islands. Members or beneficiaries of any foundation company will not be subject to any income withholding or capital gains taxes in the Cayman Islands with respect to their interests, nor will they be subject to any real estate or inheritance taxes in the Cayman Islands. Here is part of the problem. They do not call them owners. They either call them beneficiaries or members. So when CoffeeZilla is asking who owns it, I think they are word playing him because it is not quote unquote owned. There are members and there are beneficiaries. Why would someone use a foundation in the Cayman Islands? Well, much like Sam Bankman-Fried, accounts in the Cayman Islands can be particularly attractive for high-risk assets. And that is one of the main vehicles that foundations in the Cayman Islands are used for, because they are not taxed and they are a separate legal entity outside of the United States that makes it hard to go after. So could they try to go after Haley Welch for this rug pull? Yes. But do I think when people go after her, they will be going after her for the money lost on this coin? Maybe. But do I also see this as an issue with false advertising? Probably. And have I already seen all over social media people making complaints to the SEC? Yes. But right now, crypto is a difficult space. What I will say is that the people around Haley Welch will probably squeeze every last bit of goodwill she had in people enjoying the laughs of the meme with this, and they will walk away and she will remain the face of this scandal, not the people who built this coin and decided to sell it. And we learn a bit more about that when her lawyer responds to CoffeeZilla.
Her transactional entertainment lawyer contacted me.
And it says here, Coffee, I am Haley Welch's transactional entertainment lawyer, parentheses, non-crypto. Would like to have an online convo to give perspective and get advice if you are willing.
I'm just editing this live, guys. He contacted me and said he wants to have a offline combo. I said I can't do that. This is a live story. If she wants to comment on the story or shed light on how much she's been paid, kindly respond. I'll put up all these screenshots. They say she was paid an advance from a company to handle the token marketing dev launch of $125,000. That's the only money she's seen to date.
She was paid an advance from the company to handle the marketing, $125,000. So her internet notoriety was worth a $125,000 fee to hawk this coin on her community so that whoever launched it could rug pull her community, who threw a ton of money into this. Is that really worth it? But the big questions are, is she going to get a cut from the sale?
If you have questions, happy to answer. I said, what company was she paid by? What's the agreement? Did she see a cut of the pre-sale or fees from the liquidity pool? The best thing for my story is to get a copy of the agreement, of course. Christian replies, she was supposed to get 50% of net proceeds
50%
after
of
payments
net
of
proceeds.
Costs to third.
50% of net proceeds.
Is that the 18 employees or whatever they have? I don't know. I don't know what costs they
That's
have.
a lot.
But 50% is a lot. They were supposed to be mutually approved between her and the company. All decisions regarding to allocation were supposed to be mutually approved. Those decisions haven't been made at this point. The goal would be to salvage the token for the holders and her true fans and do right by the community. That's not going to happen. I can't provide the
You want to do right by your community? Don't sell them a shit coin.
actual contract, as you can imagine, but I'm happy to continue to be responsive. Your spaces and comments have been helpful, blah, blah, blah. I appreciate what you... Okay, we all know.
How could no one around her have seen this going wrong? Oh, wait, they could have. And she was selling it as something different and a way to engage in community. No. This is so frustrating. And at the end of the day, what I hope to see, because we will probably see lawsuits in this, but if they did not tell her that this is how this was going to go down and looped her into using her good name and her goodwill, whatever was there before this, whatever was there that boosted her podcast to a top podcast in the United States, I would like to see her turn around and sue the people that used her if that's what happened. If she was linking arms with them, skipping all the way to the bank, then she's going to find the lawsuits that are going to come her way. So we'll see what happens. But if she was just paid to market it and didn't know what was going to happen, is some of that on her? Yes. But does that become more of a situation like the other influencers we've seen sued in the collapse of FTX, which I previously covered? Is that going to be a situation more like Kim Kardashian, who got fined for promoting a NFT that was more of a financial token, but then didn't disclose that she was being paid to promote it? Because nowhere does it seem that Haley Welch said she was being paid over $125,000 to promote it, and promoting a financial token without disclosing how much you were paid to promote that financial token is also illegal, though it normally rests in a fine. So is there a lot of potential illegality here? Yes. Is it the type of illegality that is difficult to unwind? Yes. Is that why we saw somebody like Sam Bankman-Fried with the FTX scandal put in prison? Yes, because he was a big name, but he was also the one making all those decisions. Was she the one making decisions? Or was she a paid influencer promoting something she didn't understand to the tremendous damage of her community? Let me know what you think. And speaking of damage, the emotional damages for me from the amount of filings in the Diddy case are pretty strong. There is a ton of new filings in the Diddy case. I am going to deep dive them this week. But for today, we're going to do a really quick overview because this crypto thing, I couldn't switch focus. I just couldn't. It makes me so mad when influencers do this. So with Diddy, there are multiple things now pending, including new filings. It looks like there's going to be a hearing on December 18th. Remember the legal pads that had legal written on it that may or may not have contained privileged lawyer notes or notes about the lawyers or something? That still has motions that need to be covered and motions that need to be reviewed by the court that are being filed. Was that in fact information that was attorney-client privilege or not? The court hasn't yet decided. Then Diddy's attorneys filed a motion about his use of the laptop and not being able to use the laptop, and the government and the MDC's restrictions on how he can use the laptop, they say are too restrictive, and they want the court to hear them about that. And then, but wait, there's more. Diddy's lawyers filed a full motion to suppress. We're going to go over this 33-page motion later in the week. Make sure you have the Law Nerd app so you know exactly when I'm going to cover it, because this week has been incredibly dynamic already. But let's talk about what the lawyers are asking for. They are asking for an order for discovery and a discovery hearing, suppressing Sean Combs's privileged notes, those are the legal pad that say legal, and any fruits of the illegal search, which would mean anything that the government might discover from having looked at those notes, any witnesses or information. When we deep dive this, we'll talk about more about some of the exceptions to that. It's not automatically out. New York does recognize inevitable discovery, so we will talk about that when we deep dive this, but that's what the defense is asking for, that anything that's FOP'd gets pulled out, FOP'd, fruit of the poisonous tree. Did I giggle in law school every time I said FOP'd? Yep, sure did. Still sounds funny to my ears. 3, they are asking for a special master to conduct a privilege review in lieu of the filter team. Diddy's team is tired of the taint team. They're like, yeet the taint, bring us the special master. We are not having it with the U.S. Attorney's taint team out. We want a special master, which is generally a retired judge who would then look over information to determine if it's privileged. They want the court to consider whether any or all of the prosecutors must be disqualified because they were tainted by their access to the privileged notes. They want the court to order the government to stop monitoring Sean Combs's communications with the defense team. And I can't wait to break that down. We saw this in the Corey Richins case too, where it's like, stop monitoring the defense communications. And they're like, the defense attorneys keep calling in on the public line, so we have to hear that it's the attorneys before we can stop listening. We aren't going to stop listening till we know who's on the other end. And 6, they say, subject to the evidence adduced at the hearing, dismissing the indictment, which is unlikely. We're going to go through all of these. It might be time for a special master. The court might do that, and then we will go from there. So the defense, once the lawyers yeeted, the indictment yeeted, and at a minimum, discovery and a special master. So we know litigation's not going to slow down here, but if they did put on a new prosecution team at this point, it would definitely push this case back. And I'm still waiting to see if we're going to have additional indictments, seeing that the government has indicated numerous times that they are still investigating Sean Combs for potential witness intimidation or witness tampering. So with all of that, Law Nerd, thank you for being here. It's going to be a busy week. Stay tuned. And may the odds be ever in your favor. Talk to you soon. For deep dives into the stories that I covered here, you can find them on my YouTube channel at The Emily D. Baker and The Emily Show podcast. I stream every Tuesday and Thursday. The podcast goes live on Wednesdays. And if you want to stay in the loop with everything I'm doing, receive the fastest notifications out there, and get more Law Nerd community, join me at lawnerdapp.com, our free app for iOS and Android.